Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? Well, you may have seen or heard of stories circulating about massive solar flares that are about to strike Earth. I'm going to give you the facts and then we're going to talk about it, okay? G4, severe geomagnetic storm, is forecast to impact Earth. This marks the first time in nearly 2 decades that officials have warned of such an event could occur. NOAA, or NOAA, decided to issue a watch for the storm after forecasters observed multiple Earth-directed mass ejections, or CMEs, earlier this week. The agency notes that these Earth-directed coronal mass ejections could arrive as early as midday Friday, which is the 10th, and persist through Sunday, May 12th, in what they call an unusual event. Please excuse my voices. I'm not feeling all that way, okay? CMEs are large expulsions of plasma and magnetized particles from the sun's corona. They can explode in size as they approach the Earth's surface and cause geomagnetic storms upon arrival. Now, the particles that are ejected by the sun cause disruptions in Earth's magnetosphere during the geomagnetic storm. And powerful storms can even affect the Earth's ionosphere by adding energy in the form of heat. And this heat can increase the density and distribution of density in the upper atmosphere, causing extra drag on satellites and low Earth orbit. Because of this, significant disruptions in navigation systems, radio communications, internet outages, power grid blackouts they're all possible. Now, this can potentially affect the daily lives of millions of people around the world. Now, one flare peaked in the early hours on the 10th, which was Friday, at 2:54 a.m. And that was Eastern time, okay? And it triggered either temporary or completely loss of high frequency of radio signals across Asia, Eastern Europe, and Eastern Africa. Now, a supercharged Northern Lights spectacle is likely impact from this storm from late Friday into Saturday during this storm. And auroras are forecasted to be visible across the United States, even as far as Alabama. Now, the true strength from this storm is known, it will be known until approximately 8 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, when the CMEs are about 1 million miles from Earth. And officials expect a big shock arrival when the CMEs hit Earth. And while officials are not predicting a G5 storm, the most potent possible geomagnetic storm, they are not ruling out a low-end G5 event. This marks the first time a storm watch has been issued for a G4 since January of 2005. There are about 100 severe geomagnetic storms every solar cycle, but only 3 have been noticed in the most recent cycle that began December 2019. The last time there was a G5 or an extreme geomagnetic storm was in October of 2003. And this storm caused power outages in Sweden and damaged transformers in South Africa. Now that I have just given you the facts, I just have to wonder about a few things. First, does it not seem weird that NASA and everyone else was totally caught off guard by this? just all of a sudden just shows up. It's just strange to me. But what I'm really thinking about right now is that all the cell phone network outages that happened just a few months ago. I know you remember that. Or do you remember how several of the major carrier networks all went down suddenly with no warning? And then do you remember how the explanation for why it kept changing? First, they said it was AT&T. They were updating their networks and then just glitched out with a bug. But then later they came back and they changed the story when people started pointing out that it wasn't just AT&T that went down. No. So all of this is just spinning around in my brain. Was it a test run? A dry run? Because they always do a test run before the big one. You know what I'm saying? Was that the test? And now the solar flare storm is the real deal. If all of our electronics suddenly go out, are you really going to believe it's just a solar flare? Maybe that is the case, but I'll be wondering if we just got hit with an EMP. And that's really bad. It's really bad. An EMP, or an electromagnetic pulse, is a powerful burst of energy that can disrupt or damage electronic devices or electrical systems. It's like a super strong wave of energy that can mess with anything that uses electricity. Cell phones, computers, cars, your stove, anything. Your house, business, everything, anything and everything. You may have heard about it before, but it's not commonly discussed, so I'm going to break it down all for you, okay? The likelihood of an EMP attack. Technological feasibility. Creating an effective EMP weapon is technologically challenging. It typically involves nuclear detonations at high altitudes or sophisticated non-nuclear devices. The complexity of these technologies limits their availability mostly to advanced military powers. Now, global politics and deterrence. The US has strong diplomatic relations and defense systems, which is, it acts as deterrence against direct attacks from major powers. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction often serves as like a deterrent against nuclear-based EMP attacks, as such an attack could actually lead to a full-scale nuclear war. Then you have non-state actors. The greater risk may come from non-state actors who might not be deterred by traditional means. However, their access to the necessary technology is typically quite limited, okay? And then you have, of course, your natural EMPs, okay? There's also a risk of a natural EMP caused by a solar storm, similar to the Carrington event of 1859. While not a deliberate attack, the effects could be similarly destructive. Then you have most likely ways an EMP could happen. You have high altitude nuclear detonation, where a nuclear bomb detonated high in the atmosphere could create a powerful EMP. This would require intercontinental ballistic missile capabilities. Then you have non-nuclear EMP devices, and these devices could be designed to target specific areas or systems without the broader destruction caused by nuclear weapons. However, their effective range and power are generally less than a nuclear EMP. And then you have cyber physical attacks, which is a coordinated cyber attack on power grids, and electronic systems could mimic some effects of an EMP, though technically different. And then you have solar storms, which is a severe solar storm hitting the Earth could create natural EMP effects, disrupting electrical systems and communication. So what would be the fallout from an EMP? Well, you have power outages, no internet or phones, water supply issues, food shortages, no heating or air conditioning, Hospitals will struggle, transportation problems, banking and money problems. Emergency services will be disrupted, danger to airplanes. Schools will be closing, no radio or TV, damages to electronics, industrial shutdowns, fuel shortages, increase in crime, health risks from spoiled foods, waste disposal problems, mental health stress, and long-term recovery. So, what will life be like in America following an EMP attack? Well, the first week, the immediate aftermath, there will be widespread panic and confusion because the EMP will have disabled all of the electronics, leaving individuals without means of communication like cell phones, internet, radio, because they will be have rendered useless. Okay. Transportation systems will have been grinded to a halt. Modern vehicles with the electronic components will fail, leading to widespread traffic jams and stranded individuals. Emergency services will be severely hampered, struggling to respond to incidences without their usual communication and transportation infrastructure. There would be a run on stores for essential supplies as people quickly realize the severity of the situation, and this could lead to shortages and even looting in some areas. Now, the second and third week, communities would begin to adapt. Those with older non-electric vehicles and equipment would find themselves at an advantage. People would turn to bicycles and horses or simply walking for transportation. The lack of refrigeration and electronic banking systems would lead to a reliance on cash transactions and bartering. Local trading systems might emerge once again. Battery operated or hand cranked radios would become vital sources of information, assuming some radio stations would continue broadcasting. Now, there would be a significant increase in manual labor as machines and automated systems used in manufacturing and agriculture would be non-operational. Now, the fourth week and beyond, social structures would begin to shift, with communities becoming more localized and self-sufficient, and neighbors would need to work together for survival, leading to a resurgence in community-oriented living. Food shortages would become a serious issue because without modern transportation and preservation methods, communities would have to rely on locally sourced food, leading to a rise in gardening and small-scale farming. Healthcare would face severe challenges because hospitals will begin to struggle without modern equipment, leading to a reliance on more traditional methods of treatment and an increased need for medical knowledge within the communities. Education would revert to non-digital methods. Schools, if they remain open, would rely on books and oral teaching methods. And over time, there might be efforts to rebuild some form of electrical infrastructure, but this would be a slow and difficult process given the extent of the damages caused by the EMP. So now if you see what I'm talking about, do you think that this was a cover or a shiny object to say that the solar flare, was something other than what it was? Like, was this really an EMP? And they're saying, oh no, it was just a solar flare. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, all right, guys, that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less. Ciao.